Suguru Geto, how to make the perfect villain. In the twisted world of Jujutsu Kaisen, it is easy to get lost in the spectacle that is heroes versus monsters. There's a clear line between good and evil. Curses are just mindless monsters hell-bent on killing humans and ending humanity. Their only motivation lies within the fact that they kill humans just for killing's sake. And it's because of this that a character like Suguru Geto stands out to me. Please note that I'm not referring to Kenjaku, who is currently inside of Geto's body. I'm actually referring to the original Suguru Geto, who would have made appearances in JJK Zero the movie and also in the prequel episodes. Now before I begin, this goes without saying, but anime spoilers ahead. Now let me start by saying what I consider a perfect villain to be. To me, a perfect villain is very similar to a perfect hero, in the sense that they are relatable. In order for me to truly respect or like a villain, he has to have some form of relatability. He has to have goals, motivations, and above all else, flaws. What truly makes a character come off screen and feel like a real person is the more human they are. Being evil for the sake of just being evil honestly comes off as very one-dimensional. And in the real world, nobody is completely evil. At least no one that is entirely sane. And if nobody is all bad, then there must be some strong reason as to why a character behaves the way they do. The world is filled with much more gray zones, and you find that heroes and villains have a lot more in common than you'd like to believe. A perfect villain isn't some mad genius hell-bent on world domination, but a regular person like me or you who through a series of events caused them to go down a path that could have happened to anyone. That to me is a perfect villain. Someone who challenges the morals of our protagonist and even ourselves and really makes you question the definition of good and evil. Now let's introduce a character I consider a perfect villain, Suguru Geto. When I initially watched the JJK movie, I was quite confused about Suguru Geto. I wasn't entirely aware of the relationship between him and Kenjaku. So to make this video simple, I'll break this down. The JJK movie happens after the events of Season 2's prequel in Jujutsu Kaisen. So basically, the person we are seeing now in the anime isn't the true Suguru Geto, but another sorcerer inhabiting his body called Kenjaku.
What?
Personally, I don't love Kenjaku that much as a villain, but I'll discuss that another time. Onto the explanation. Geto is initially introduced after saving Utahime alongside Gojo. While Gojo playfully teases her, asking her if she is scared, Geto then playfully says, "Satoru, it isn't nice to pick on the weak." Protecting the weak is something that is established early on as something that is very important to Geto. After they save Utahime and return to school, the principal scolds Gojo for not taking enough care to put up a barrier to prevent non-sorcerers from witnessing the events. Gojo then expresses that he does not see much point in having to raise barriers. And what does it matter if normal people see them exercising curses? He's annoyed that he has to spend so much time protecting the weak. Geto immediately butts in, saying that it is very important for non-sorcerers to be protected from certain situations, as that keeps them at ease. Gojo then cuts off Geto mid-conversation by finishing his words, as Geto has clearly expressed these ideas to him before. These moments help to show the kind of person Geto is. Geto is someone who truly cares about others, especially the weak. He has a strong sense of duty, and this defines all his actions. He doesn't let his strength get to his head, and he serves as a moral compass for Gojo. Geto is a special grade sorcerer attending Jujutsu alongside his best friend Satoru Gojo. They have another team member, Shoko, but she isn't really that important to the team. Both Geto and Satoru are considered the strongest sorcerers at Jujutsu High. Early on, Suguru's struggle with being a Jujutsu sorcerer is shown, as he's very much traumatized at the fact that he has to devour curses. His curse technique involves him absorbing cursed spirits after weakening them, but to do this he has to physically eat them so that he can draw upon their power. Unfortunately, eating them is a horrible process, and he describes the taste of cursed spirits like eating a vomit-soaked rag. Despite this horrible process that he has to undergo each time to become stronger, Geto firmly believes that the strong should protect the weak. He ignores his suffering and has a firm sense of duty, and I find this extremely relatable. He hates his job, but he knows it is the right thing to do, so he pushes on. Many of us can relate to that feeling, having to be responsible. If we didn't see Geto hating his job, maybe he would be seen as a bland, one-dimensional character. But we can hear and see the visible disgust in his mind as he forces his way through his responsibilities. As someone strong, he never expressed his problems to anyone, but in his mind, we are given a first-person view as to his suffering. This closed-off mentality ultimately leads to his descent into evil, and we get to see from the start that this could truly happen to anyone. Now, what is very interesting about Suguru Geto is that initially, it was Geto who served as a moral compass for one of our other main characters, Gojo. Because of Gojo's immense strength, he looked down on the weak and saw them as inferior, while Geto adopted a more kind and humble approach. Geto saw the weak as persons to protect, and he was quite annoyed at Gojo's arrogance. Geto saw the importance of manners and tried to be a respectable sorcerer even with his strength. Despite their clashing ideals, they are both best friends and highly respect each other, as Geto serves as an anchor to keep Gojo in check regardless of their differing opinions. Gojo highly respects and cares for Geto, and the two of them are best friends through to the end. Geto at the start of the prequel can be seen as an ideal hero, but as the story progresses, Geto's morals begin to decline, and through a series of unfortunate events, Geto eventually cements himself as a villain. But can his goals be justified by his means? It starts off when Gojo and Geto are sent on a mission to find and protect an important vessel for Tengen. The vessel is a girl named Riko, who will serve as the next host for Tengen's body. As they arrive to protect Riko, they are greeted by some low-tier enemies, a part of a cult organization attempting to murder Riko. Gojo and Geto manage to easily defeat them. Here's where the foundation is set, as these two hardly ever struggle to beat anyone. But this status quo is about to change. We are introduced to another character, Toji Fushiguro, a character who will be one of the major reasons for Geto's downfall. Toji is an assassin hired to murder Riko, and Toji comes up with a master plan of tying up Gojo before he attacks, as he is aware that Gojo is the only person who could pose a challenge to him. Gojo and Geto decide to enjoy as much time with Riko as possible, as they know she'll ultimately lose her life when she becomes a part of Tengen. So through a montage of events, we see Gojo, Geto, and Riko bonding together. They choose to take the scenic route so that they can enjoy as much time as they can with Riko before she will ultimately lose her life as she becomes a part of Tengen. We see how the characters grow to enjoy each other's company and truly become friends. We also notice that Gojo is extremely exhausted due to Toji Fushiguro's plan. Toji had placed a bounty on Riko's head so that random assassins would attack Gojo and his friends. Throughout their journey to stay safe, Gojo had to put his guard up for the entirety of the trip, which greatly exhausted him. The moment they arrive to JJK High, Toji takes down the bounty, which makes Gojo think that they are safe, so he releases his guard. Toji takes immediate advantage of this by stabbing him in the chest. This shocks everyone, as Gojo has never been injured before in a fight. Geto attacks Toji, and Toji shrugs this off easily. After removing the blade from his chest, Gojo assures Geto that he is alright and tells Geto to take Riko to the barrier and get her inside safely. As they finally get to the barrier, Geto reveals to Riko that he and Gojo were always going to give her the option to choose if she becomes the host for Tengen or not. If she were to change her mind, he and Gojo were willing to protect her even if it meant disobeying the rules. And that once more shows the type of character that Geto is. Though initially we are led to believe that he is some sort of prude, only sticking to the rules kind of person, it is clear he believes in following his heart. And he's the kind of person that is willing to extend himself so far for someone he only recently met. And in a tearfully cinematic scene, Riko admits that even though she was putting on a brave face, She was absolutely frightened of losing her life, and she desired to live more and enjoy her life with the people she cared about. Geto reaches out his hands to help her, and in one of the most depressing and tear-jerking scenes I have ever seen, Toji shoots Riko in the head. Damn! Now I truly have to comment on the way Geto's emotions are expressed in this scene. You can truly see the look of shock on his face. He has never truly experienced loss like this. He has always been the strongest. Not to mention, if Toji made it all the way here, then that would have also mean he defeated Gojo, something which no one could possibly imagine. Toji and Geto begin their fight, and Toji effortlessly defeats Geto. And instead of killing him, Toji leaves him alive, as killing him might become too bothersome. He then goes on to ridicule Geto by saying, "A monkey like me was able to defeat you." Toji is the first person to humiliate Geto, but the ironic part is that not only is Toji the first person to humble him, but he is also a human, one of the so-called weaker persons whom Geto had sought to protect. After demolishing Geto, Toji is found by Gojo, who ends up having an awakening after being defeated. The two begin to fight, and Gojo makes quick work of Toji. After Geto regains consciousness, he rushes to Gojo and walks into a room. There he sees a group of humans from the Star Religious group celebrating the death of Riko. Gojo, who is quite indifferent at this moment, tells Geto that he could kill them all right now and feel absolutely nothing. But Geto, who is still holding on to his morality, tells Gojo to refrain, as there needs to be a reason for sorcerers to kill. This is a decision that Geto will regret deeply for the rest of his life. Toji was ultimately the main catalyst that sent Geto into his spiral for two reasons. He made Geto start to question his morals. Why did he and his friends have to fight and suffer, even die for people who were so cruel? And after defeating Gojo, he ultimately pushes Gojo to higher heights by putting Gojo on the brink of death, helping him unlock a new technique, thus making him so strong that he and Geto were no longer in the same league. As Gojo and Geto grew apart in strength, they also grew apart in friendship. Now before I go any further, if you've been enjoying this video, I'd really love if you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That will help me to create more videos like this just for you. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments if there's any other videos you'd like to see, or just what you think of this video in general. Back to the video. Geto attempted to maintain his ideology, but his path became more and more unclear as time went on. Gojo became the strongest, and Geto started going off on more dangerous missions alone. Geto felt caught in an endless cycle of exorcism and consumption. Eventually, he began questioning why was he doing these grotesque things, and he kept remembering the non-sorcerers from the Star Religious group who were happy that Riko died. He saw them as evil that day and still chose to protect them, an action he grew to regret, thinking of them and calling them monkeys for the first time as he looked back. During his downward spiral, he was greeted by another sorcerer, Yuhabara, a naive, happy-go-lucky sorcerer who, despite all the hardships, firmly believed in protecting the weak. Geto, whose beliefs were currently shattering around him, asks Yu if he's okay with being a sorcerer and if he finds it hard. Yu simply responds that he doesn't think about it, and he enjoys being able to give it his all and do whatever he can. This serves as a slight motivation for Geto, as he's shocked by Yu's perseverance, despite not being that strong. But before their conversation can continue, another sorcerer appears, Yuki Tsukumo. Yuki seeks out Gojo, but ends up running into Geto. She ends up having a conversation with Geto, and during their conversation, she reveals to him a shocking truth. Non-sorcerers are the main reasons why curses are born. Cursed energy flows far more freely out of them compared to normal sorcerers, so their raw energy leaks out and become cursed spirits. Yuki doesn't agree with Jujutsu High's methods of simply murdering curses because she thinks that it's ineffective to simply treat a symptom. She wants to be proactive and fix the very cause, She explains that there are two ways to get rid of cursed spirits. One, by either eradicating cursed energy from all of humanity, or two, teach everyone how to control it, which would stop cursed spirits from being created. She has opted to do the latter part of the solution, but after hearing this shocking truth, Geto comes up with another idea: murdering all non-sorcerers. Yuki even goes as far as saying that that idea would possibly be the easiest to execute. What really stood out to me is that during this conversation, you can hear the claps echoing in Geto's mind as he remembers the day when the Star religious group applauded when Riko died. Yuki asks Geto if he hates non-sorcerers, and Geto opens up by saying he used to think that protecting non-sorcerers was right, but he has doubts about it if they're worth fighting for. Unable to see the difference between the preciousness and ugliness of the weak, Geto compared being a sorcerer to running a marathon, where the finish line is much too unclear. Yuki tells him he needs to choose between the two sides of him, one that's devoted to being a Jujutsu sorcerer and the other side that looks down on non-sorcerers. After rewatching this episode, I really wonder how the anime could have gone differently if she had run into Gojo instead. For starters, Geto would have not come up with the idea of exterminating all non-sorcerers. Maybe he would just quit being a sorcerer, and Gojo, who had the power to change the world, what decision would he have taken? All these events were triggered so randomly, and that is just perfect writing right there. From Geto's side of view, the people that he fights so hard to protect, sacrificing his friends and his mental health, are the cause of their own suffering. And even while he and his friends fight with little to no reward, humans still remain cruel. In fact, from Geto's side, humans were the cause of all suffering for sorcerers. Geto truly went on a path that could have happened to anyone. He struggled with his morality, and that is what makes him human. He doesn't jump to decisions, but he fights within himself and tries, even despite hating what he has to do. He has suffered greatly, and in his lowest points, there was no one around him. A time when maybe his best friend could have possibly saved him, they are grown apart, and he was tired of seeing the people around him die. After losing Yu Habara, Geto changed his thoughts on his philosophy, and that day he decided that being a Jujutsu sorcerer is like running a marathon where the end of the road is just a mountain made of fellow sorcerers' corpses. Geto was tired of seeing everyone around him die. On a mission following his friend's death, Geto finds two young girls being mistreated by non-sorcerers for having curse-related abilities. Geto was able to tell that the problem the villagers faced was from cursed spirits, but the villagers, who were unable to see spirits, blamed the two innocent girls. Seeing this, Geto completely lost it. Geto finally made his decision in that moment. He rescued the two girls, Mimiko and Nanako, and killed all 112 residents of the village, and even his parents, officially becoming a curse user and leaving Jujutsu High behind. Suguru Geto chose the path that he thought was right, a side where his friends don't have to die protecting persons who create their own problems, a side where sorcerers could be safe. After leaving Jujutsu High, Geto encounters Gojo, and Gojo asks why he's doing this, and tells his best friend that his decision to murder all non-sorcerers is crazy and that Geto only believed in killing with a purpose. But Geto says that there is a purpose. Geto isn't the type of person to aimlessly kill. He decides to kill all humans to protect his family, to create a world that is safe for sorcerers. Geto tells Gojo that this is a path that he has chose and that he is going to give it all he can, similar to how Yu Habara has said to him earlier. Geto also tells Gojo that it is quite arrogant for him to think the way that he does, because it's possible for you, right, Satoru? If it is possible for you, then how can you say it is impossible? Gojo only called Geto's idea crazy because he didn't think he had the power to achieve it. Because if Gojo had decided to slaughter all non-sorcerers, it would not seem like an impossible task. Who would stop Gojo if Gojo decided to destroy humanity? Geto then asks, are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? At first, I didn't clearly understand that, but after thinking about it, I have a few ideas. Let me know what you think in the comments, but this is what I got from it. Gojo at one point looked down on non-sorcerers, and now he stands in front of Geto, arguing with him about his perspective. He has a change of opinion, but because Gojo has the strength, he's able to decide what is wrong from right. He has enough power to dictate morality. The question can also be interpreted as Geto is asking, Is your strength a part of your identity, or is your entire identity centered around your strength? Gojo is someone who was born with great strength and is very arrogant because of it. Is his arrogance from his strength, or is his arrogance from his personality? After being defeated by Toji, Gojo puts all his energy into honing his skills and becoming the best, even to the point of not noticing his best friend's despair. Gojo thought that he could save everyone if he became the strongest. However, it wasn't until Geto asked that question that Gojo realized that being the strongest isn't nearly enough. Suguru Geto hated non-sorcerers, going as far as referring to them as monkeys. But this bad habit actually came from his trauma with Toji. He felt sorcerers were superior and humanity's next stage. But to me, I think that was his mind's way of rationalizing in his heart what he had done. Though he was smug and condescending towards humans, Geto had to find a way to rationalize his actions. Do I think he was right? Definitely not. But I can't sit here and pretend that his story couldn't have happened to anyone. After his trials, Geto believed that he was living in a world of paradox, where the weak controlled the strong. After everything he went through, he did become an extremist, but it was a logical path. This wasn't some psychopath, but a man who became broken by his idealism. Even though he grew to hate humans, he had great care for his fellow sorcerers, referring to his commanders as family. Each of them loved and looked up to Geto for putting sorcerers first and hoped that he would become king of the Jujutsu world. Geto, to me, never truly became evil. He only envisioned a world where he and his friends no longer had to suffer. His means were wrong, and he did become broken, but at the very core of his character, he was truly a good person. To the point where even when he attacked Jujutsu High, Gojo trusted Geto not to kill students, because being objective, he had more than enough power to do so. Geto even went as far as to cry tears when he saw the students protecting each other. As in his own twisted way, he truly desired a world where sorcerers' lives were put first. Ultimately, Geto was killed by Yuta Akutsuki, but I truly think Geto made an extraordinary villain. His path to darkness was clear. His ambitions were probably out of his reach, but we can see why he longed for it. He was not the most powerful character by any means, but he utilized cunning and strategy to achieve his goals. There were stakes when he fought because he wasn't invincible, and his actions ultimately paved the way for Gojo today. One of Gojo's strongest motivation now is to create a better path for the new generation after the tragic loss of his best friend. Gojo inherits Geto's desire to protect the weak and desires to create a set of sorcerers to be equal in his strength. Geto's actions were extremely crucial to the plot, and ultimately right now his very body serves as the host for the show's primary villain. Honestly, I would have loved to see another version of Jujutsu Kaisen where we get to see the clash of ideals between Geto and Gojo. But for now, let's celebrate the exceptional villain that is Suguru Geto. If you enjoyed this video, the YouTube algorithm says you're gonna love this video right here.